Welcome back, fellow adventurers, to the Frog God Games YouTube channel. My name is Ben Barsh, your host, guide, and dungeon master here on the Frog God Games YouTube channel. And today, I have a very special announcement, kind of. I guess it's just good news. This is the 100th video on the channel. That's crazy. 100 videos. That's a lot of videos. Not all of those are specifically mine. If you know that the awesome guys and gals over at Frog God Games uploaded some videos before I arrived, and then I took over the channel. But that's just really cool, and it's a cool accomplishment. So thank you guys all for watching. If you've seen every 100 videos, I compliment you, because in the beginning we didn't know what we were doing. So thank you guys so much for sticking with us through all these videos, and thank you for being a part of this ride now, because it's certainly ramping up a little bit. We have Alice and Brandon making videos as well, so the team is starting to grow. It's just really cool to see. And today, I thought of doing a little bit more of a fun video. Now, a lot of people probably won't be interested in this, but as you guys have come to know me, and I've come to know you guys, I realized I don't really talk about myself a lot, or ever. Mainly because I don't like sitting here and talking about myself. I would rather talk about cool gaming stuff. Especially that's Frog God Game centric. Obviously, that's why we're here with the channel. But today I just kind of I want to talk about and tell the stories of every time I have met someone in Frog God Games. My first encounter with Bill Webb, with Zach Glazer, with Matt Finch. I just kind of want to tell these stories because nearly all of them are actually really interesting and strange. Of course, that's totally expected with the chaotic energy that Frog God Games has. Chaotic good energy, let's just get that straight. Like I said, you might not even really be interested in this video. I know it's a little different from what I do normally. If you want to hear some good stories or some cool fun stuff, just stick around. If not, I totally understand. I'm going to be uploading a video this Wednesday as well. I'm going to double dip this week. So to make sure that you guys get that normal scheduled Frog God Games content, I just wanted to make a little fun one for the 100th. So the first story I have, I met Bill Webb. Now Bill was like one of the first people that I met in the gaming industry when I started going to conventions. Now, for those who don't know, I do my own company as well, Pacesetter Games, with my dad, Bill Barsh, and I started going to gaming conventions. God, what year was it? It must have been like 2015, 14. That sounds about right. 6 or 7 years ago. And technically my first one was Gen Con, but I don't really count it entirely because I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really know what was going on. And from that point, I was just hooked. Like, the first thing that we did was we went to the Gen Con auction, and it was weird because I had never seen my dad in this situation, and people coming up to him asking him for autographs, and it was just strange. And then, watching the auction with Frank Menser and Tim Kask was just an unbelievable experience. So I was instantly hooked on the D&D community and the D&D crowd altogether. And then I asked to go to another convention. And the next one that I was able to go to because of school, I wasn't able to go to Gary Con, which, as you know, is in March, because of high school or middle school, whatever one it was. And I went to North Texas RPG Con. Now, this is kind of where I met everyone for the first time. So a lot of these stories are going to be from this convention. So I'll try to clump all those into this one con. But I'm just sitting at our booth because we had the Pacesetter Games booth. And across the hall, there was the Frog God booth. It was like the two big booths on each side. So I'm just sitting there, and I don't know anyone. First of all, I hardly even really know what like first edition AD&D is, just from what I've done with it at home. I'm talking to people, selling modules, all that kind of stuff, and I don't know anything out of like the scope of first edition because that's the only edition that I ever played so far. I knew that there was box sets, but I didn't know the rule systems or anything. But I digress. It's pointless, irrelevant. So I'm just sitting there, and I'm on my laptop. I remember distinctly. I was working on. I logged into my World of Warcraft character because I was super into WoW, and I was a really high-rated player, and I had to message some people and say I wouldn't be able to group for games this weekend. So I'm sitting there playing World of Warcraft, and Bill Webb walks up, and I have no idea who this guy is. He's just walking up. He's got an armful of books, like probably 6 huge hardcovers. You've seen them, Frog God Works. And I'm just sitting there, and he goes, "Hey, make sure to give these to your dad. Let me look at your guys' stuff. Okay, I don't have this one. I don't have this one." And he's just grabbing stuff off of our shelves, of our modules, and giving me books in exchange. And he's like, "Oh, just tell your dad I stopped by. I'll see you later." And I was like, what the heck just happened? Because I had never met him. I had no idea who he was. All I know is he dropped off a big stack of books and then grabbed stuff in return and left. And I was like, what? Is this how this happens? Is this gaming? this is tabletop gaming. So later fully introduced to him, and it was awesome. And from there, basically, he's like one of my convention dads. Well, I'm a grown adult now, but was. And basically, like, if I needed anything from him anytime, he's the kind of guy who would take a shirt off his back and give it to someone, and he would be left without one. So it was just a funny encounter, and just kind of sums up how, like, the giving nature of Bill Webb. It's just, he gives out so much stuff, and he gave me this channel to mess with, so thanks, Bill. Bet you don't regret that one at all. The next character that I met is good old Zach Glazer. Zach. Probably the person that I've worked with the most at Frog God. Working on a project right now, which is really cool. And I met him when he wasn't even with Frog God yet. So he was still with Lesser Gnome, his own company, his own publishing company. And I believe this is like right around when Whispered Venom came out, maybe, or Death and Taxes. It was one of the two. And he's walking around, and he's just, my dad's introducing me to people, and I meet Zach. And later I see Zach, and he comes up and starts talking to me. We're talking about gaming or whatever, some sort of tabletop conversation, of course. And he reaches into this box or bag or something, and he starts giving me a bunch of Lesser Gnome merch. And he gives me a hat, and he gives me a tattoo, like a legitimate, like the kind of tattoo that you put on your arm, and you put like a wet towel over it, and then you take it off, and like the tattoo's on your arm or whatever, wherever your face. And he's like, yeah, put the hat on, put the tattoo on. You're like a walking advertisement. I was like, what are these people? It was just like so strange. And I know these were just like strange experiences in my head, which probably wouldn't be as strange if you were like more of a veteran in the community. But like, I just had never experienced this before. And it was just so cool to like be introduced to these people in like this sort of way. I don't know. It was just strange. Actually, fun fact, I still have the hat. And I wear it a lot whenever I do live streams with Frog God. I throw the hat on because it's like Lesser Known. It's like where Zach came from. And then, later Zach came over with Frog God and all that good stuff. Oh, next one is Matthew J. Finch. Now, Matt Finch, I've had a couple. I didn't have a distinct one encounter that like I really got to know Matt well. Matt was just always like in and out. I met him here and there. And I remember I met him... I believe it was at a GaryCon. I don't even remember really meeting him at that North Texas. I think it was the next year's GaryCon. And since then, I have read Swords and Wizardry, and I was like super into it. And I remember a conversation that I had with him. And this wasn't that specific time of meeting. This is just the first thing that comes into my head of like my first long, real meeting with Matt Finch. And I remember I was just always such a fan of his dungeon mastering. From watching his games or watching his games online. He used to stream some games. He was just such an immersive dungeon master. And I remember one year at GaryCon, I went up to him and I was like, hi, I was like young, so I had like a little pipsqueak voice. I was like, hi, I DM for my friends and I want to DM online. Like, what should I do? And how can I make the game more immersive for the fans? And I remember he sat for like 30 minutes one night. This was like 11 at night. He was late. And he just gave me a bunch of Dungeon Master tips for like 30 minutes. And then he gave me his phone number as well and said, if you ever have any questions, call me. So that was just a cool experience that, I don't know, it wasn't specifically the first time I met Matt, but it was definitely a memorable experience. The next story is Mike Badlotto, who has recently come on to Frog God Games. He does majority of like the customer service stuff, and then as well as convention. He's a big person to help at conventions with Frog God. And he's basically just like a jack of all trades. And I remember the first time I met Mike was the first convention game I ever played in. I didn't sign up for games, obviously, because I had no idea what I was doing. And so I don't even know how it happened. Like, my dad was just like, hey, do you want to play in a game? And I was like, sure. So he took me down like a hallway from the booth, and literally like this table was full with all people that were like double or triple the age of me. At the time I was like 15 or 16 or whatever, so I was just like terrified of what was going on, like totally fish out of water. And I remember sitting down, and I sat right next to Mike. The DM's chair next to him was open, and I remember we played In Search of the Unknown, and it was just such a fun game experience that it was my first convention game. It was wild. And then I remember the next year, I went to the North Texas RPG Con. He was actually my first character convention death too, which was totally my fault. Because we were in Search of the Unknown again. The cool part about his In Search of the Unknown game is he puts his own flair and own changes into it, so it's like a different game every year. And I remember I was playing a rogue, or a thief. God. You're not playing a rogue in that edition. And I remember I found these jewels in the basement. and they've reduced my move speed to like 1 or 2, like, or 0. Like I could barely move, and we were getting chased by giant scorpions. And my character, I refused to give up the gems because I denied that was the problem that was weighing me down, this magical curse. And my character got eaten by the scorpions because I didn't put down the gems. So I learned a lot in that game. And those are just some stories of how I met the guys over at Frog God Games, and you know, long story short, we all became friends. Did some work over the years together, you know, gamed at conventions, all that kind of stuff, and then eventually an opportunity opened here at the channel, and I was offered it and took it. So yeah, I don't know. This video is really random. It's much more casual. If you guys enjoy casual kind of videos, not just as much like informative or, you know, jamming a lot of content into a certain amount of time, then just let me know. I can do more of these, or just do like a fun video a week or something. You know, not specifically in place of that like informative video, but just supplementary, just kind of fun. So yeah, if you did enjoy the video, give it a like for me. That helps me grow the channel. Comment down below anytime you have met anyone at Frog God Games, if it was a fun story or anything like that. I'm sure there's plenty. I'm sure there's plenty of crazy gaming nights with Bill Webb, and you know, had a fun time. And let me know the stories. I always like hearing fun stories like that. Subscribe for more content, because like I said, there's more content than ever. I'm going to be uploading again on Wednesday in addition to this Monday video, and then Alice and Brandon are also pumping out videos. It's just awesome. Good time to be a Frog God Game subscriber. Thank you all so much for watching, and keep going on adventures worth winning.